What I'm really present to today is how many people, myself included, are walking around wanting connection, yet afraid of it. Or not necessarily afraid of it, but unaware that we're closed off to it because I guess there is a part of me and other people, I believe, that is afraid of it because it's new or we don't know how to enliven it. I think the dating apps are full of them. I think the world is full of them. And I think that ladies looking for men who make a lot of money or who are super good looking is not going to give you, in my opinion, emotional intimacy and connection. Those people who are chasing money in the material world are usually very disconnected from their emotions, as are most people, I think. What I'm really looking for at this time in my life, I'm looking for masculine men who are comfortable with their emotions. What does that look like? It means that he shares his feelings, starting with his interest. See, the first vulnerability point is saying, I'm interested in you. That's vulnerable. I'm interested in you. I want to get to know you. That's vulnerable. You know, it's not a game like hey on a dating app. It's saying, I want to take you out. For example, sharing his feelings. And me being able to take that in, you being able to take that in. So see, I've just met a lot of people over the years, and still do, who are terrified of intimacy. They reach out to me, whether it's for coaching or, my bookkeeping, and then they disappear and run away. They can't even make an appointment or follow through on something. And I think I've been afraid of intimacy and connection. I think what happened is when I was little, I might have already said this in a video yesterday. I'm pretty sure this is what happened, but it really makes sense. It may have happened with you. I think that my parents were super busy and they didn't always have time. Children are very needy. Very, very needy. And I think there were very few parents around who could be there emotionally for their children every time. To some degree, I think we all have some emotional wounds. But I think mine is pretty clear, where I decided, well, these people are not reliable. I'll turn to myself for comfort. People aren't safe. People don't care how I feel. I have to turn to myself for comfort. And I think I was shamed for having feelings. I got the message somehow that feelings are for weak people, and that strong people don't have feelings or don't show feelings, and especially men shouldn't do that, right? I think to some degree our whole society has been affected by that. So my work right now that I'm very interested in and very intrigued by is just noticing that, because it's been brought to my attention with this new therapist I'm working with, an unlicensed but trained psychotherapist who also does hypnotherapy and somatic work. I have to say that the one session I had with her did more for me than the 30 or 40,000 I've spent on other coaches in the past. I really got present to my choice to choose unavailable men. I got present to that I was uncomfortable with intimacy, but also because she did the call on Zoom and she honored my feelings and I felt it, and she called me back into feeling and staying embodied. I could really notice that I'm not afraid to feel. She just woke that up in me. I noticed it. She pulled me into feeling. And she said, we are having emotional intimacy, Sharzad. We are right now having emotional intimacy. I can have emotional intimacy with anyone, with my friends, with my children. It's something, a new muscle I have to use. And becoming aware of the fact that I had thought my feelings were a source of weakness, and I want to be strong. I was always praised for being strong and smart or pretty or interesting or playful. I was never recognized as a child for having my feelings. Feelings can be very messy and difficult to deal with for a lot of people, especially people who are not comfortable with their own feelings, which I think is the majority of the world. Acting out is not a feeling, that's acting out. Retaliating, yelling, crying, those are all reactionary. Feelings are vulnerable. I think we can all improve on sharing our feelings, but I was just really aware of how few people actually do that and talk in that language of sharing their feelings. There are some coaches I've worked with who tried to teach me this. There's a coach I worked with last year who taught me some things to say. Like if I'm talking to a guy, let's say he's texting me, to say, hey, are you free for a phone call? I'd love to hear your voice. And I can say that? Yeah. And that's vulnerable. And a phone call is more intimate than texting anyway. And then through the work with Cherry Wheel and the courses, he's really big into learning intimacy and learning intimacy skills, which who of us has ever learned it or experienced it? I'm very interested in developing this more in myself and practicing it, because I think any relationship that's void of that is never going to be satisfying. My marriage wasn't satisfying. I picked someone who was uncomfortable with that. Maybe the world is full of men who are comfortable with vulnerability and intimacy. And because I was closed off to it, they didn't find me attractive, or I pushed them away, or I found them a turnoff. I don't know. I'm very curious about this topic. Intimacy, what are some examples? It would be like when I'm talking, I'm actually feeling what I'm saying. It would be saying things like, I missed you when you were gone, or I'd like to get to know you better. I'm trying to think of some things that are not things that people have actually said to me, because I don't want to share too personal things, but it could be something like, well, I don't want to give examples because I'm very new to this, and the only ones that come to mind, I have a bunch that come to mind, but there were actually things that someone said to me, and I don't want to share them. So when I do my next call with my therapist, I'm going to ask her for some examples of how intimacy would sound. And one thing I will say is that when people are actually being intimate, and when they're actually being vulnerable and intimate, there wouldn't be a feeling of unavailability or desperation or anxiety around it. I have had my share of being interested in men that I thought they were hot, and there was a lot of anxiety around, you know, when is he going to call me, when I'm going to see him again. Not all men, but I have had a history of going for them, and it's horrible. It's very upsetting. It's very traumatizing. And I was married to someone like that, and it causes a lot of pain. What I have to do is be comfortable with my own vulnerability, my own emotions, and only be around people who value that as well. And I don't know how many of them are out there. I do not know how many of them are out there. I don't know if the whole world is just waking up to this, if it's very common and I just missed the boat, or if it's just a rare quality that many of us are emotionally asleep, because I think most people didn't have their emotional needs met as children. And so that part of us, that vulnerable emotional part, is asleep. So we got to wake it up. We got to wake it up. So the first thing I think is just realizing it, you know. Where have I been afraid of intimacy and connection? And do I want to wake that part of me up? Not everybody does, you know. I was married to a guy who didn't want to wake it up. I wanted to wake it up when I was married with him in that relationship. And then after that, I guess I didn't really know what the problem was. After that, I kept thinking, I've been single 9 years. I haven't dated anyone. And I kept thinking, I don't know why I'm not attracted to men. I don't know why I don't want to date anyone. I don't know why I'm single. Well, I think I've been single because I've been wanting something that I was afraid of at the same time. Or maybe it just wasn't my time. I don't know. But I just want to make this video about it. And now I'm going to make these potatoes with some eggs. But if you guys have noticed, I like to make my videos in different settings because I like variety and novelty. Just another tip. Don't bore your woman in bed. It should be different every time, else we get bored. And I get bored. So I like to make these videos. You know, I just got home from the gym. It's after 12 noon. I went super late. I did a lighter type of workout. I might post it because I took some videos from my Just for Fans at the gym today. I do have a Just for Fans, by the way, but I'm not advertising it here. That's just, you know, how I make my money, so I can make these videos. But I like to make my videos in different settings. So oh, I'm gonna make some potatoes and I want to make a video, so let's do it at the same time. Or which background do I want today? I just think it's more interesting, so my videos aren't boring. But I would like to know what you think about intimacy and vulnerability. Like, did you grow up as a child having your feelings nourished and comforted? Who did you go to for comfort, emotional comfort? If you're a man, if you were sad and crying because your friend didn't want to play with you, and yes, little boys cry when their friends don't want to play with them. Do you even remember that? That you thought it was okay to be sad about it, or that you cried, and then how was that handled? Do you think that feelings are a strength of us or a weakness that you've had to hide? That's become the shadow. Do you look for people who share their emotions, or do you avoid them? I'm not talking about people who are all emotional. I think that we have to be functional, right? We have to be able to hold a job and work out and take responsibility for ourselves. But part of being a whole human is sharing our emotions, and that's a sensitive, vulnerable part. But it doesn't have to be. I can go around and tell you guys that right now I feel a little bit, I feel a little bit alone, a little bit safe, a little bit, how do I feel? I'm a little bit bored today. I'll tell you that. And I'm looking forward. I'm going to meet, I have a new friend. It's a lady I met at the gym. And I'm going to meet her for dinner. I'm going to have some good Mexican food and margaritas. So I'm looking forward to that tonight, actually. Really looking forward to that. It's been very hot and dry in San Diego. How do I feel? And I'm a little bit unsure of how my afternoon is going to go because I'm a little bored, and I still do not feel completely safe calling people and talking to people. I still feel a little bit that people are going to want things from me. And I think that comes from my parents because my mom, she would always tell us, like, do this and give us lists of things because I think she was just stressed. And when my parents talked to us, they wanted something, you know, do this, or now we're going to do this, and go outside and play, you know. We played a lot as kids. We were always sent outside to play. And they wanted things. I don't remember them ever asking what the hell I wanted or how I felt. So my first experiences of people were having to do things, that they wanted things from me. I think my first experiences of people not wanting things from me were my grandparents, which is probably why I have so many fond memories of them. They just did fun things with me and paid attention to me, and they didn't want anything from me. They just taught me interesting things like crossword puzzles, and they would sit with me and have dinner with me and take me places and do fun things, that, like, cool things with horses and dinners and conversations, and they had this thing full of chocolate. I remember that, but we still didn't talk about feelings. I hope this video isn't too long. I used this real salt and and pepper. I'm gonna make these potatoes now. I'm not a very good cook. I actually have to look up how to cook these. Yesterday, this is so funny. This is what a bad cook I am, because my mom did all the cooking. I know I'm 60. I still I had seen on this one recipe that when I bake my corn, I should put down parchment paper. So I baked some corn in the oven the other day, and it's organic corn, by the way. I baked corn in the oven, and I put foil down instead of parchment paper. And the sugar of the corn or something went onto my baking pan and left the sugar spot that was very hard to get off. So I decided next time I make corn in the oven, I'm going to use the parchment paper and the foil, because I don't know what I need. I'm going to use both. So yesterday I broiled the corn. I didn't bake it. Okay, the first time I baked, this time I broiled it. So I had the parchment paper and the foil underneath the corn. And I almost started a fire. Because the parchment paper caught on fire. I was very calm, like, I know it's going to blow up, but I'm like, I'm 60 years old. I still don't know how to broil corn. And so I'm not the best cook, but I do manage around in the kitchen, more or less. Thanks for watching my video.